Welcome to Students Incorporated. I'm your host, Mr. Jason. Join me weekly as my team and I produce content that's informative, positive, fun, and uplifting. This podcast is created and produced with the help of students from the International Community School of Bangkok. This episode kicks off the start of Season 3, and I'm super excited to start introducing you to some of our new Season 3 team members. I'm joined by my brand new student co-host, Mia and Frank. Don't worry, you'll meet them in just a moment. We start this first episode of Season 3 by introducing a few of our new podcast team members. Then we'll follow that up by having a conversation with the headmaster, Mr. Luke, about some of the hot new trends in the education sector this year. But first, Frank will share our quote of the day, followed by our headline news report read to you by Mia.
Hey everyone, I'm Frank, and our quote of the day comes from Anthony J. D'Angelo. He's quoted as saying, "Develop a passion for learning. If you do, you will never cease to grow." This quote highlights the power of developing a passion for learning. When you love to learn, you're always growing and evolving, no matter where life takes you. Whether you're exploring new hobbies, gaining new skills, or simply satisfying your curiosity. A love for learning keeps life interesting and full of opportunities. Embracing this mindset ensures that you continue to grow and improve throughout your life. And that's our quote of the day. Now on to some headline news with Mia.
Hey everyone, I'm Mia and I'll be bringing some headline news from around the world. Our first news piece comes from an article published by UTeach, which focuses on the topic of nano-learning. The Digital Learning Institute explores nano-learning, a new educational trend that delivers information in brief, focused segments, sometimes only 3 minutes long. This method aims to improve engagement and retention by breaking down content into manageable, small bite sizes, which is usually delivered to the user as video or through an interactive e-learning platform. This learning structure and form caters to today's fast-paced digital world. And let's face it, we live in a world full of distractions and our attention spans are not what they used to be. Moving on to our next news items, which comes from Forbes. Forbes published an article about how AI has been impacting the classroom. A quote from the article states, "In October 2023, Forbes advisors surveyed 500 practicing educators from around the US about their experiences with AI in the classroom. With respondents representing the teachers at all career stages, the results reveal a snapshot of how artificial intelligence is impacting education. This survey examines the increasing integration of artificial intelligence in schools, emphasizing its potential to transform education through personalized learning and administrative efficiencies. The report outlines various functions of AI in education, such as adaptive learning platforms, AI-powered learning games, automatic grading and feedback systems, intelligent tutoring, and chatbots that can help enhance student engagement and teacher productivity. As AI technology keeps advancing, its role in shaping the future of education becomes even more important and prominent." And finally, our last piece of news comes from a Fox Business article that was published earlier this year. The article emphasized the rising significance of soft skills in today's job market. Employers are placing greater value on interpersonal abilities such as communication, teamwork, and problem solving, recognizing that these skills are vital for navigating the complexities of the modern workplace. The report highlights that while technical expertise remains important, it's no longer enough to guarantee success. In fact, many employers are prioritizing candidates who demonstrate strong soft skills, as these qualities foster collaboration, adaptability, and leadership. As the job market continues to evolve, developing and refining these interpersonal skills is becoming increasingly essential for both career growth and long-term professional success. And that ends our headline news for this episode.
Thank you for the quote and the headline news. As we kick off this new season with our new team, I wanted to take the next few episodes and have our new team members introduce themselves and answer a few get-to-know-you questions. After our question and answer time, we'll share a top 10 list before we break for our PSA and then on to segment 2 with Mr. Luke. Now, to begin with, I wanted to officially welcome Mia, Frank, Highlight, and Abe to the studio for a little meet and greet with our audience. So let's just go around the room, introduce yourself, and tell us a little bit about the role you have this season.
Hi guys, I'm Mia and I'm a senior this year. I'm also one of the co-hosts on this podcast, so please don't get bored of my voice just yet because you'll be hearing it a lot this year.
Good evening or good morning, depending on the time you are listening to this. My name is Frank, and I'm a junior. I was an exchange student last year, and I'm currently a co-host in marketing.
Hi students and community, I'm Highlight, a junior student at ICS and the producer of the Students Incorporated podcast. I genuinely look forward to working alongside the amazing team of creative minds this year.
Hey guys, my name is Abe. I am a junior and my job is the booking agent.
Okay, thank you everyone. Let's move on to our next question. I know we have just started, but how has your experience been so far with being part of the new Season 3 team?
I absolutely adore this team, and honestly, my experience with them has so far been really great. I love working with everyone except Frank. Just kidding. I'm beyond honored to work alongside him as co-hosts on this podcast. And I'm also extending my thanks to Mr. Jason and the production and marketing team for making these past 3 weeks absolutely incredible.
Wow, thanks Mia. Honestly, my current experience has been great. I'm enjoying working with my team. It would be a lie if I were to say that this is not one of my favorite classes in this school because we get to work on what we want, but at the same time work diligently with a guideline.
I truly feel like this is one of my favorite classes because I get to strengthen my skills of marketing, management, and so many more. To briefly give an example, while I was walking back from the ARC the other day, an idea of a prospective Students Incorporated guest conjured up my mind. So I quickly dropped by at Mr. Jason's class the next day and shared my idea with him. Intro to Marketing class allows me to independently and collaboratively express my passions in marketing by allowing all somewhat random ideas to run wild. Essentially, one of my major conduits for creative expression.
So far, this is my favorite class because it feels almost like a job. We each have our own roles, and also we have deadlines and also due dates and tests we have to complete within a time frame.
Okay, thank you so much, everyone. With the start of a new school year, what are some of your favorite classes so far? And it's okay if you don't say Intro to Marketing.
Oh man, this makes it even harder to pick. Well, I would say guided studies, but that's not a really good answer, so I'll say personal finance. I enjoy how Mr. Bryan teaches this class and especially how I can apply the skills that he teaches in class to everyday life, such as noting down your expenses every day, learning how our personal decisions affect our financial choices, and etc.
That is a really hard question, but if I had to choose the top two, it would be economics or marketing. This is because in marketing, well, I enjoy actively engaging in these subjects, and either way, I find the people I work with really interesting, especially Abe. And in economics, we are currently working on a group project to fundraise for seniors, and I have to say it's been great so far.
I have to say that it's in fact Intro to Marketing and AP Psychology. Personally, I enjoy finding the interconnectedness between the two classes. Even though I just started both classes, there are already some concepts that's cross-transferable. For example, I recently recognized how correlation need not mean causation when reaching out to guests. Just because they left you on red, which is might be considered a causation, doesn't exactly mean that they're rejecting your request or disregarding your message, which might be a correlation. These two actions may relate to each other, but it might not always have a cause and effect relationship.
For me, probably teacher aid. I think it's just fun to hang out with Mr. Manny and also Mr. Jason and just do tasks with them because it just gives me a sense of peace and I like to also talk with them.
Okay, thank you again, everybody. And my last question for all of you before we move on to our top 10 list is, what's one fun memory, experience, or fun fact you have from your summer break?
All right, what a question. This summer, I went to Shanghai, China, and there have been one too many times where me and my friends would get lost on the streets of Shanghai at night, and I would be forced to use my very mediocre Chinese skills to get us safely back to our dorms.
Summer break. Isn't it one of the best thing ever? from sleepless night to more than well-rested evenings, just waking up at let's say 12 p.m. I was waking up at 3. I've had my share of that. But one thing that stood out the most for me was my time in the US, enjoying some of the best night with my exchange friends, Panav and Kiera. We drove around the cities, messed around in Walmart, did a drive-through prank at McDonald's, and lastly, laughed a lot.
Wow, Frank's summer really sounds like a teenage dream life kind of summer. One fun yet boomer sounding memory from the summer was creating a spreadsheet with a list of various Facebook groups with target customers for the upcoming Dragonfly 360 Summit, unlike what Frank did, and having lunch outings with my so-called co-workers. In short, it was like reliving my childhood experiences in the adult Kidsania realm instead of the Kidsania for kiddos.
One thing I did over break was I went tubing and also water skiing at our lake house, and pretty much I just spent all day out there tubing and just having fun with friends and also family. So yeah.
All right, thanks again, everybody. It sounds like you had very unique and different types of summers, but it sounded like you all enjoyed yourself. Okay, with that said, we're going to now move on to our top 10 list. The top 10 list is called the top 10 educational trends are trending in 2024. We'll start off with number 10 and then count our way down to number 1. And Mia's going to start us off with number 10.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Jason. So starting with number 10, global and cultural competency. We're learning more about different cultures and global issues in our classes, and it's really important because it prepares us to understand and work with people from all over the world.
Going on with number 9 is sustainable and green education. I heard that schools are starting to teach more about the environment and how to be eco-friendly. It's cool because it helps us learn about sustainability and how to make differences.
On to number 8, personalized learning paths. Personalized learning allows students to go at our own pace and focus on what we need to improve. It makes learning feel more personalized and adaptive to us.
Number 7 is a focus on 21st century skills. This is a focus more on skills just like critical thinking and also creativity, not just memorizing facts. These skills are also important for future jobs and also being taught in all of our subjects.
Okay, now we're on to number 6. Number 6 is data-driven instruction. Teachers are using data to figure out what we need help with and how we're doing. It helps them to maximize a student's skill to allow them to have better learning experience.
Up next with number 5 is social emotional learning, or SEL. SEL programs help us with our emotions and our social skills, like understanding others and managing stress. Honestly, it's really great because it makes the school environment very supportive.
And now we've got number 4, EdTech innovations. Technology in education is advancing with virtual reality and gamification. These tools make learning more fun and immersive and keep students engaged.
On to number 3, micro-learning and nano-learning. Micro-learning gives us small, quick lessons that are easy to handle, and nano-learning is even shorter than micro-learning. It helps us learn new materials in manageable chunks.
Next is hybrid and also blended learning models. Hybrid learning mixes online classes with in-person classes. It's flexible and also fits better into busy schedules.
And last but not least, the number 1 trend in education this year is artificial intelligence integration. AI is becoming a big part of education, helping produce personalized learning, feedback, and support many other benefits for students. All right, that's our top 10 list. We'll be right back with Mr. Luke after this short PSA.
1, 2, 3, 4.
That time of the year is coming, and nope, it's not Christmas, it's Carnival. Our senior council and seniors have worked really hard to bring this together for the ICS community, and we hope to see you there on Saturday, August 31st. Each booth will be set to different time periods where the past, present, and future collide. There will be raffles for big prizes such as toys, electronics, home decor, and more. There will be lots of games such as classic carnival games, escape rooms, and even a dunk tank with your favorite teacher, or not so favorite teacher. Again, that's Saturday, August 31st, Senior Carnival, and we hope to see you there.
And we are back with our second segment, and we welcome Mr. Luke, who serves as a headmaster of our school. I'm also joined by student co-hosts Mia and Frank. Welcome back to the show, Mr. Luke. I know we've had you on a few other times in Season 1 and also Season 2. So thanks for helping us kick off our first episode of Season 3 with the topic of current and hot trends in education. Let me start off with our first discussion question, as we'd love to hear your thoughts about this as it relates to the field of education. So here's our question. With the rapid advancements in AI and technology, many people are curious about how these innovations are being applied in an educational setting. At ICS, for example, what are some ways educational technology is being utilized?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Jason. Thanks for having me back. Always an honor to be on this podcast. I think you guys do a fantastic job. And I'm one of your subscribers that listens all the time. Good question about technology. I think it's been really cool to actually see what's been happening with AI in the last couple of years, especially. And it's been really awesome to see what's been happening specifically in education. I think most researchers would agree that the AI boom that kind of started with the launch of ChatGPT really has the potential to impact education across the world more significantly than anything else, with the exception of possibly the internet itself kind of being implemented into education. I think a lot of researchers and educational thinkers would say that, AI is the biggest thing ever. I do think it's safe to say that that's probably true in many ways. As we've seen, it's impacted things significantly already in such a short amount of time, and people are really just trying to figure that out. So at ICS, we've been using it a lot of ways. We're kind of on the front end of things when it comes to really integrating fully AI, trying to figure out policies and procedures and things like that before just releasing all the technology itself. Right? We don't want to get the wagon before the horse, I think is the saying. So we're moving, I don't want to say slowly, but I would say that we're moving very intentionally and methodically to adopt AI as a tool that can enhance education of students at ICS. We're really kind of accepting it as something that we have to embrace and not something that we need to ignore.
All right, Mr. Luke, actually, now that you've mentioned it about those policies that you said, a lot of my teachers in most of my classes have also, been embracing technology in a lot of ways, especially my personal finance class. So yeah, I'm personally super glad that the teachers are utilizing AI to its full potential. So now that we've talked about technology inside the classroom, we'll be stepping back and we'll be viewing ICS as a whole. So many of our listeners have been interested in knowing about any technological upgrades to our school's infrastructure. So Mr. Luke, have there been any significant changes recently?
Good question, Mia. I would say technology is one of those things that we're always upgrading on campus, always looking at kind of what's new, what's better. We have more users, we need more speed, we need more data, we need all of that, right? So we're constantly upgrading everything from hardware to software to increasing Wi-Fi access, increasing the speed, all of these things. I don't know that there's been a huge change regarding the kind of infrastructure side of things with specific to AI. I do think that we kind of last year, we opened up ChatGPT to students for student use when kind of generated for teacher specific activities. We have developed policies and procedures for generative AI technologies and how those can be used by students. But as far as the infrastructure goes, there wasn't a lot that was actually required, at least for what we're seeing so far, right? As the AI technology develops, obviously we may need more needs that we don't have, and we'd be willing to do that. But right now, I think we're pretty good.
I actually didn't know that we could use ChatGPT. I mean, I wasn't here last year, but anyways. How do you envision technology evolving in both teaching and learning? What trends should we be looking out for?
I think some of the big areas that we'll see AI impact education is in the realm of adaptive learning. These are programs that adjust to the learner kind of on the fly based on the skills and knowledge that they demonstrate in the moment. I think it's really cool technology actually to see some of this adaptive learning taking place. When I grew up, it was kind of like the beginning of the video game age when we got out of like very, very basic video games and into video games that were adaptive actually in some ways, meaning that, in order to complete level 1, you had to be able to do certain skills or whatever, and to get to level 2, those had to increase. So it was pretty cool, and I kind of see that adaptive learning model as obviously a super advanced version of that. As a learner in adaptive learning, as a learner demonstrates competency, the content can change and get more difficult or get less difficult as needed. This is already being used for like personalized learning already. And I think it's something that schools are looking to kind of adopt wholesale. Another big area would be in the realm of individualized tutoring systems. I don't know if many students are actually using these already, but there are a ton of really cool apps and websites and things that you can use that have this adaptive, individualized tutoring for all sorts of subjects. So you could save your parents money. You could save time traveling back and forth to tutors and things like that. You could also learn about things that you might not be able to learn about in school because we don't offer it at school. So it's pretty cool to see that. As far as teachers, I think AI has the potential to really help teachers in many ways. We've spent a lot of time talking with teachers and kind of having teachers meet together and discuss a lot of that stuff, from planning and integrating engaging activities in classes. And I know right now there's been a ton of development being poured into the area of grading right now too, which I think a lot of teachers would love to see. Obviously, that's something that's pretty sensitive and requires a high level of complexity, but it's happening. It's happening fast. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops over time. I really do think AI has the potential to help lots of students from a creative standpoint too, which is really cool. For someone like me, I'm not very creative by nature. And anytime I've been working on projects, I've always had to get people to help me with the creative side of things. Now I find myself going to people less for ideas and things and just pulling up AI tools and being like, hey, give me 200 ideas on this. And, maybe 80% of them aren't that good, but the 20% are a whole lot better than what I could think of on my own. So I think the creative process is something that's really exciting as well.
All right. Thank you for your insight, Mr. Luke. And just a follow-up question on my end, which trend will ICS most likely adopt?
I really think these personalized tutoring systems have a ton of potential to not only help students in the classes they're in, but to open up kind of a whole new realm of learning in an area that may not be offered in school. And I've actually seen there are colleges already that are using these things to kind of fill in gaps. So if a student wants to go into engineering or something and is missing a course that they really want their student to have, then they're giving them these kind of personalized learning systems.
We live in this day and age where, there are lots of older and younger generations. So, there will obviously be people who are aware of AI, and there are others who aren't so much aware of AI. So how would you describe what technology and AI is to someone that's never heard of it?
I would try to keep it simple because I think it could get very complicated and very overwhelming very quickly to someone who was in that situation. I guess I would say using AI in the educational setting is kind of like having a personal assistant to help you do many of the tasks that take up a lot of time and kind of do things that maybe we see as like mindless tasks. I would also say it's a great opportunity to enhance students' and teachers' creativity. I think that's a really cool thing to highlight to someone that didn't know what they were using. I guess I would encourage them that it's actually not that difficult. People that haven't used it, I think oftentimes feel kind of overwhelmed by this seems like futuristic or whatever, but it's actually very user-friendly.
I think that's a really good take on it. Now, here's a quote that predicts the outcome and the impact of AI on employment by technology expert Dr. Trace. He says, "You may not have your job replaced by AI, but you will likely have it replaced by someone who can use AI." So, what are your thoughts on this quote, and what are the steps you believe you should take in response?
Yeah, thanks, Frank. That's a good quote. I'd seen that before as well, and that's one that actually we on the admin team kind of toss around sometimes, which So it was fun to hear that you had that in your question. I honestly think there's a lot of truth to it. I know that's probably a reality that a lot of people don't actually want to face, especially people like my age and older. But there's a lot of reality to the fact that it's slowly happening already. All right, and I think that colleges and universities are going to have to prepare kind of you guys and your generation for jobs that we don't even know exist. But also B, being jobs where you're able to effectively use the tools that you have in order to kind of complete the jobs that you're going to have. However, at the end of the day, I think people are still going to be required to think critically. People are still going to be required to solve problems. People are still going to be required to work in teams in order to be successful. I do think AI will be a huge part of life in the future. But that's for everyone. Everyone will have access to that. But I think really what will kind of separate kind of the mediocre from the excellent, or the successful from the highly successful, is the ability to utilize those soft skills and kind of develop those. The same thing happens now, right? Like we've got access to a lot of things, and one of the differences that kind of separates people is the ability to do those things, to work together, to communicate effectively, to kind of build relationships with each other. I think soft skills allow for that. Soft skills allow for effective communication, teamwork, adaptability when things don't go as planned. Soft skills allow humans to interact with each other effectively. They allow us to build relationships with each other and be in community together. Everyone has access to AI, but not everyone has those soft skills. So that's something that will be a difference maker, I think.
All right, thank you for that. I personally really agreed with what you said about the soft skills, because I think that's something that, people moving forward will definitely have to embrace a lot more than AI. So yeah, thank you for that. All right, now that we're on the topic of AI, I wanted to introduce a new type of learning to you, Mr. Luke. It's called nano learning. So it's basically a design trend that's created to educate learners on a topic through short and informal learning particles, usually less than 2 minutes. So there are no interactions with the instructor as it's carried out via electronic media. Do you have any experience with nano learning despite it being implemented about 2-3 years ago?
Yeah, it's an interesting concept. I don't know that the idea educationally is actually all that new. It's something that's been around for a long time, right? Like we talk about kids, especially younger kids, maybe not as much in high school, but kids no one wants to sit there and listen to their first grade teacher talk for 15 minutes straight, right? And no one's doing that. Well, I shouldn't say no one. ICS teachers certainly aren't doing that. And it's not happening because we know that kids do better, the kind of learning in these bite-sized chunks, right? It's different than nano learning in the way that you're explaining it, in the sense that there's still a teacher, right? But I do totally get it. I understand the fact that we kind of live in this time of YouTube Shorts and TikTok and Instagram Reels, and it makes us all feel like maybe we can't focus for more than that short amount of time. So hey, let's kind of shift education to be that. I'm not saying there's not value in it. I do think that there is value, and I mean, even myself personally, right? I've learned lots of things from a 2 to 3 minute video on YouTube or whatever. I really have. I do think that there's value in it. However, I don't think that concept kind of encapsulates all that is required of learning in education. It's an aspect of learning that can be highly effective for people. But then I think there's also people out there that love nothing more than sitting and listening to a teacher kind of pontificate about history or whatever for 40 minutes, there are those people out there. So I think it can be used as a tool, but it's just like we've seen for well over 100 years. There's no silver bullet when it comes to the perfect way to learn.
I actually agree with that, about, having to learn in bite-sized chunks, because you can't expect someone to just learn immediately. Let's say I'm learning how to golf, you can't just learn it immediately. Like, even if you have the best coach, the best teachers, it's better to learn it in bite-sized chunks. Now, to end us off with our final segment, we'd love to hear about your advice about device usages. Could you share some, best practices with us?
Well, I am not an expert by any means, and I use my device way more than I probably should. I think in my mind, philosophically, I think I won't speak for all of us, but I think most of us are on our devices too much. I think it's something that we fool ourselves into believing that it fosters human connection, but it actually does the opposite in the end. And because of that, I would say ideally we shouldn't be like so addicted to our phones and iPads and computers or whatever it may be. I'm not saying that there's not value in them. I'm not saying that they can't be used for good things, because they can. I'm not saying that it should only be used for good things or work or whatever. I think it's totally fine to be used for entertainment and fun as well. I guess very practically speaking, some things that we do as a family is we kind of agree that no phones or devices at the table, like when we're eating dinner. That's something that we always try to do. Honestly, some nights we even sit down and kind of watch TV as a family while we're eating dinner. But then we still kind of acknowledge that we're not going to touch our phones, because that's not doing what the family is doing. That's been really good for our family. I think no devices at night, kind of in bed, is really good, because I think it's very hard for us as human beings to ignore that ding or that vibrate that happens in the middle of the night, no matter what time it is, right? And you wake up and check it, and then your brain starts like firing on all cylinders, and you're having a hard time sleeping, right? I think if you've read any of the science and research recently about sleep, device usage at nighttime in general is really bad for sleep. And then to further push that down the road, like sleep is so integral to all of our health, right? So I don't know. Maybe I'm old school, but I feel like we're all on our devices too much, and I'm guilty of that as well. And it's constantly something where I'm like, man, I shouldn't be doing that as much.
As we end this episode, we'd like to thank Mr. Luke for coming on the show again and sharing some of his insights about new and hot trends in education this year. He's also given some great advice about technology and its usage. Stay tuned for our next episode, as my team and I have put the gears in motion to bring you 32 new episodes this season. And as always, this podcast would not be possible without the hard work and support of our international student production team.
All music and sound effects are courtesy of Pixabay.com, a vibrant community of creatives, sharing copyright-free images, videos, and music.
And we are signing off until next time. We are Students Incorporated, because your voice matters.